The gala at the Metropolitan Museum of Art was a symphony of success, a crescendo of congratulations that Elizabeth Collins had spent a decade curating. In her black silk gown, she was the poised center of this world she had built, the dialogue between ancient and modern, her masterpiece. Yet, as the evening's twilight faded, so did the warmth of the accolades. A familiar, cold void remained. Her phone, a silent, dark rectangle in her clutch, held no messages from her family, no congratulations, no acknowledgement. The silence was a tradition in itself. A week later, the high of her professional triumph had ebbed, replaced by the weary comfort of her sofa and a glass of red wine. Scrolling absently through Instagram, her breath caught. A photo, posted by a friend, flooded her screen. #Collins Forster wedding. There was her sister, Becky, radiant in a pristine designer gown, standing beside Jason beneath a canopy of white flowers. The date stamp was last Saturday, the night of her gala. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she scrolled further. The cake, the champagne tower, the dance floor, and there, beaming in the crowd, were her parents, Martha and Harold, resplendent in formal wear. The truth, vicious and absolute, descended upon her. The wedding had happened, and she had been deliberately, utterly excluded. The excuses she conjured, a lost invitation, a postal error, dissolved under the glaring evidence. They knew her address, they knew her schedule. With trembling hands, she called her mother, then her father, then Becky. Each call rang out into emptiness or clicked directly to voicemail. By Wednesday, a steely resolve had hardened within her. She drove to her parents' Connecticut home, the familiar white colonial now a fortress of a shared life from which she was barred. Stepping inside, the first thing she saw was a large, framed wedding portrait hanging in the entryway. Becky, Jason, and her proud parents, a perfect tableau with a conspicuous, gut-wrenching absence where she should have been. "Elizabeth, what are you doing here?" Martha emerged from the living room, her surprise looking more like an accusation. Liz took a steadying breath. "Becky's wedding. Why wasn't I told?" "Oh, that." Martha waved a dismissive hand. "Jason's schedule forced us to move it up. We meant to tell you, but you're always so busy with your own things." "That's not true," Liz countered, her voice dangerously calm. "You knew about my exhibition months ago. I wasn't invited." "Why?" Harold appeared then, his face a mask of paternal confusion. "What's all this about?" "Dad, why was I cut out of my own sister's wedding?" The silence that followed was heavy and damning. Martha and Harold exchanged a loaded glance, a silent conversation of long-standing alliance. Finally, Martha sighed, a sound of profound inconvenience. "Fine, if you must know. As a single woman, it didn't really concern you. It would have been awkward." The word was a physical blow. "Awkward?" Liz repeated, the floor feeling unsteady. "It was Becky's day," Martha said, her irritation now plain. "Jason's family, their friends, they're all established, successful couples. Having you there alone, so focused on your career, it would have made people uncomfortable. We just wanted everything to be perfect for her." Liz stared, the foundations of her identity, her independence, her accomplishments, crumbling into a source of shame. "So I am an imperfection." "Don't be so dramatic," Harold interjected, his tone placating yet empty. "A wedding is just a party. Your life is unchanged. You have your work." In his eyes, she saw not the pride she once knew, but a profound indifference. The message was clear. Her world was insignificant compared to the spectacle of Becky's. "You're right," Liz said, her voice quiet and final. "My life hasn't changed, but my understanding of my family has." She turned to leave. "Liz, don't be so sensitive," Martha called after her. "Becky has always needed more. You're the strong one. I'm surprised you're upset over something so trivial." Liz stopped at the door, the cool night air a promise of freedom. Trivial? She didn't turn back. To be erased from your own family? To have your very existence treated as an embarrassment? That isn't trivial, Mother. It's a revelation. Back in her apartment, the grief finally broke through her resolve, and she wept, for the lost little sister, for the parents who never saw her, for the smiling family in the photos that had no place for her. But as the tears subsided, a new, colder emotion took root, a determination to no longer be a victim of their narrative. The next morning, an unexpected knock announced Becky herself. standing at the threshold with a designer bag and a triumphant smile. Surprise. I came to see my big sister. Becky breezed in without an invitation, her pink blouse as glossy as her demeanor, a massive diamond ring glittering on her finger. Liz, her composure a carefully constructed shield, offered coffee. Decaf with oat milk, no sugar, Becky instructed. Settling onto the sofa as if holding court, she produced a lavish wedding album. Look, it was perfect, wasn't it? Mom and Dad spared no expense. Liz leafed through the pages, her gaze not on her sister's joy, but on Jason's practiced smile. A flicker of memory teased the edges of her consciousness. It was the best day, Becky proclaimed. Then, with a veneer of sweetness that failed to mask the venom, she added, the kind of day you'll probably never have. Big sister. The air in the room froze. Liz looked up, meeting her sister's gaze, and saw the childhood companion was truly gone. I'm sorry, Liz said, her voice flat. I should feel happy for you. Right now, I feel nothing. Mom said you'd be jealous. Becky sighed, a theatrical performance of disappointment. This isn't about jealousy. It's about being purposefully excluded from a family event. Becky's mask slipped for a second. Well, if you must know, Jason and I decided it was for the best. It was our day. All the attention needed to be on us. You would have just changed the atmosphere. Liz absorbed the cruelty without flinching. She changed tactics, her tone deceptively light. Tell me about Jason. His family is from New York? He's in investment banking. Very important. Travels constantly, Becky said, her answer suddenly vague. Just last week he was in New Jersey. Becky soon left, off to a spa appointment, leaving behind the ghost of her smug smile and a promise to give Liz a copy of the album as a memento. The moment the door closed, Liz's calm facade shattered into purpose. She picked up her phone and called Marcus, the private investigator who had helped her with forged artworks. This is a personal matter, she told him the next day in her office. His name is Jason Foster. I need to know everything. 3 days later, Marcus confirmed her darkest intuition. Your instinct was right, Liz. Jason Foster is also Michael Harris. He's not with Goldman Sachs. He's an independent advisor with a portfolio of aliases. In Montclair, New Jersey? Liz asked, her stomach a tight knot. He has a regular presence there. I'm still digging. Keep digging, Liz said, her voice steady. The grief was gone, replaced by a clear, focused resolve. She was no longer the excluded daughter or the embarrassing sister. She was a curator of truth, and she was about to open a devastating new exhibition. The drive to Montclair was a silent, grim pilgrimage. The tree-lined streets and quiet colonial houses were a world away from the curated halls of the Met, a portrait of suburban normalcy that felt like a stage for a terrible lie. Liz parked across from the address Marcus had provided, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. A tricycle and a child's bike lay in the front yard, each a damning piece of evidence. Her heart wasn't just pounding. It felt like a trapped bird beating against a cage of dread. When the door finally opened, the scene was devastatingly domestic. A young boy bounded out, followed by a woman with a warm, open face and golden hair tied in a messy bun. She took the boy's hand, her laugh carrying across the street as they headed toward the park. Liz followed, a ghost haunting their perfect afternoon. In the park, she took a seat on a bench adjacent to the woman. What a lovely boy, Liz offered, her voice carefully neutral. Thank you. The woman, Samantha, beamed. My Aiden. He'll be 8 next week. The small talk was a delicate, painful dance. Finally, Liz took a breath. I need to ask you about your husband. About Michael Harris. The light in Samantha's eyes died instantly, replaced by a weary, knowing fear. Who are you? My name is Elizabeth Collins. Last week, my sister married a man named Jason Foster. I have reason to believe he is your Michael. Samantha's face went ashen. With a trembling hand, she pulled out her phone and displayed a photo. It was Jason, his arm slung around Samantha, grinning the same charming, empty grin. Him? She whispered. Yes. Liz's confirmation was a death knell. The story spilled out of Samantha in a choked, tearful torrent. A decade of marriage, the constant business trips, the lonely nights, the promises that always seemed to fray at the edges. She showed Liz the proof, a worn marriage certificate, Aiden's birth certificate. A gallery of family photos charting a life Liz's sister knew nothing about. The final piece was a photo from last month, Jason, beaming, his arms around his wife and son at a birthday party. The man who had just pledged his life to Becky was, unequivocally, a father and a bigamist. The drive back to Manhattan was a blur of rage and a profound, aching sorrow for the sister she was about to shatter. When Becky's text arrived, "Album's ready. See you tomorrow," smiley face, Liz placed the photo of Jason's other family on her coffee table, a silent declaration of war. The next afternoon, Becky arrived in a cloud of perfume and self-congratulation. "Delivery," she trilled, brandishing the leather-bound album. Liz poured wine, her movements measured. "Tell me about Jason," she prompted, as Becky gushed about his latest grand gesture. "He's a whirlwind, so successful. All the travel is a bore. But it's the price of ambition, isn't it?" Becky sighed, a performative wifely complaint. "Becky," Liz said softly, her voice cutting through the chatter, "there's something you need to see." She slid the photo across the table. Becky's smile didn't just fade, it shattered. "What is this?" she rasped, her voice stripped of all its gloss. "It was taken last month, in Montclair. That's Samantha Harris, her husband, Michael, married her 10 years ago. The boy is their son, Aiden." "Photoshop," Becky insisted, a desperate tremor in her hands. "You're jealous. You've always been." "Stop." Liz's voice was calm, an unmovable rock in the face of her sister's hysteria. She laid out the documents, the marriage license, the birth certificate. "Your Jason is her Michael. He's living a double life." A frantic call to Jason brought him to the door within 20 minutes, his charm replaced by panicked sweat. "Becky, this is a misunderstanding," he began, the lie forming easily on his tongue. "Explain this," Becky demanded, shoving the photo in his face. "My sister," he started, but Liz played the recording. Samantha's voice, raw and honest, filled the room, detailing a decade of deception. The color drained from Jason's face, the mask was off. Becky's slap cracked through the air like a gunshot. "You have a child?" she screamed, the sound tearing from a place of pure, betrayed agony. "Our marriage was a lie?" In the ensuing chaos, Liz called their parents. Martha and Harold arrived to a scene of devastation. Martha's anger was, at first, financial. $50,000, she cried, her voice shaking. "We paid for a lie." But as Liz presented Marcus's final report, detailing not just bigamy, but investment fraud, the gravity of the situation silenced them all. Jason, cornered, turned venomous. "This is your fault." He spat at Liz. "You couldn't stand to see her happy." But Becky finally found her voice, quiet and broken. "No, you're wrong. Liz protected me." She turned to her sister, tears streaming down her face. "After everything I did, you still protected me." The apology in her parents' eyes was a long overdue bomb, as Jason slunk away with a final, hollow threat. The family he had sought to divide collapsed inward, not in anger, but in a desperate, shared need for solace. Liz didn't hesitate. She opened her arms, and Becky fell into them, sobbing out a lifetime of rivalries and regrets. 6 months later, the Connecticut backyard was awash in the gentle light of a spring sunset. The air was sweet with the scent of her father's roses. Martha handed Liz a cup of tea, her gesture tender, devoid of its old condescension. "I've done a lot of thinking," Martha said, her voice soft. "I used your strength as an excuse to be blind. I'm so sorry, Elizabeth." Liz took her mother's hand. "We're learning." Becky joined them on the terrace, dressed simply, a new serenity about her. The divorce proceedings were underway, and with therapy, she was rebuilding herself. In a twist of fate born of shared trauma, she and Samantha had formed a fragile alliance, 2 women supporting each other through the wreckage Jason had left behind. As the family gathered for dinner, a sense of peace settled over them. Harold raised his glass, his eyes finding Liz's. "To our family, and to Liz, whose courage brought us back to each other." The clink of glasses was a gentle, hopeful sound. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, not as an ending, but as a promise of a new, more honest dawn. The wounds were not fully healed, but for the first time, they were all tending to them together.